Hello, and welcome to this edition of Lift Every Voice. Lift Every Voice is a program of the Louisville branch NAACP in which we attempt to keep our community informed of the issues that are taking place that affect them. And we believe that an educated community is the best community, and we seek ways in which to do that. The NAACP, which was founded in 1909, has been on the battlefield for civil rights, human rights, economic development rights, and in protecting all of those in terms of our community. And there are many things that have happened in our community in the recent weeks. And today we're fortunate enough that we're going to talk about economic development here in Louisville, economic development and some new projects and things that are undertaken. The NAACP does all of its work through committees. And those committees have chairs and they in a variety of areas. Of course, you know about education, you know about veteran affairs, you know about membership and all of those, but you probably haven't heard much about the NAACP's Economic Development Committee, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm fortunate enough today to have a very special guest, and that's Mr. Kevin Fields, who chairs the NAACP Louisville Branch Economic Development Committee. Kevin is also the executive director of Louisville Central Community Center, and he is a longtime resident of Louisville, involved in many activities. I think many of you may know him, but for those who don't, I want to introduce you to Mr. Kevin Fields. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you, Raymond. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you. I'm excited.
Well, we're, as I say, I told the audience a little bit about you. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about you?
Well, absolutely. You hit it right. I've been in Louisville for a long time. In fact, all my life, I'm a Louisvillian. I've worked in the community around issues involving economic development, community development, education, workforce development, organizational leadership, and I'm pleased to be at the helm of Louisville Central Community Center because it really is a place where the culmination of my career experiences can be put to use in a way that I think is certainly rewarding to me, and hopefully it's impactful to the community because I get a chance to work in the Russell neighborhood, which is the neighborhood in which I grew up in Louisville, and spent practically all of my life, whether I lived or worked or worshiped, spent a lot of time in the Russell neighborhood in West Louisville. So I'm a civil engineer by training, urban planner as well, and an organizational leader. So I get a chance to take on things that really drive my passion, and part of that is helping young people to have great opportunities to grow and to be successful, and then taking on challenges that get in the way of that. You know, making sure that anything that inhibits growth and development for young people has to be tackled. That includes housing, that includes opportunity for training and employment, that includes crime, that includes anything that gets in the way. So I'm excited about the work that we do at LCCC.
Well, that's great. I think the Louisville branch is fortunate that you have agreed to take on the role of chairing our Economic Development Committee in terms of what it can do. And the other thing about it is, I think we believe that, we all believe that, that organizations can accomplish things, but when they combine and work together, there's no telling where we can push frontiers back and make major improvements. And so having you as the economic development chair is a added plus for the Louisville branch NAACP. Let me start by asking you, how long have you been involved with the NAACP?
Well, actually off and on for a long time. As you know, Raymond, I've worked in the civil rights community for a while. I spent a good chunk of my career at the Urban League, and we collaborated with Raul and NAACP on a number of initiatives, voter rights registration, getting together on education issues, and I must say, though, I will take responsibility. I haven't been as engaged as I'm going to be. I'm looking forward to the future of more engagement with NAACP. And I was really excited when I talked to Ralph Cunningham, our president, and learned that, there was an opportunity to serve in what I think is a very critical role, and that's advancing economic development. And when I saw that chair seat was available, and I knew the work that we were doing really would add value not only to the chapter, but also there would be a reciprocal value add that we would get back by having the brand affiliated with our brand. So I'm looking forward to what we're doing. But I've become a dues paying member within the past year or so. But it will happen going forward. And not only that, I'll be a strong champion to bring other members into the chapter as well. There's no more important civil rights organization than the first and foremost, the NAACP.
Okay, so when, as I say, we're here and we're talking about economic development. I think as it relates to the Louisville branch, with this committee, you now have the ability to write with a blank slate in terms of where you want to take it, what you want to do. So tell me what your thoughts and plans around the committee and what the committee should do and what's the aim?
Well, the committee, I'm glad to have it restarted. What are we going to do? First and foremost, we're going to convene the membership. I'm right now a committee of one, although I put out the call to other existing members to join me. And I'm also going to be bringing in new members into the chapter to serve in this committee. So the first thing is to convene the membership around key economic development initiatives to close the wealth gap and to take on some of the opportunities that we know are there, but are still lacking in terms of Black engagement and Black empowerment. And so we want to really do the research necessary to identify those opportunities and really take on those opportunities and the problems that come with them, so that we can address those issues. We want to address anything that systemically plagues the Black community. And we know a lot of the root causes of our plight in the Black community falls back to economics. And so we want to take on that. We also want to promote Black entrepreneurship. I'm excited about seeing what I'm seeing now in our community, Black entrepreneurs coming out and being organized. We want to take on economic development initiatives, especially those that are Black-led. We want to engage policymakers, certainly challenge the status quo. We want to stimulate investment in the Black community. And more importantly, we want to collaborate, do a lot of collaborating. We want to create collective, this whole idea of collective economics, groups working together toward common vision. And I think we all, at the end of the day, want to see our community empowered. So we have a lot of opportunity that I'm excited about. I'm really motivated to take on this. I'm being newly seated. I certainly will follow the leadership and making sure that we stay in lockstep with the vision locally as well as nationally of NAACP. But also we know that there's some new ground that needs to be broken. And so we don't mind being a trailblazer in some aspects, in that we need to take on some things that maybe haven't been taken on before. So I'm really excited about, what lies ahead. And but at the same time, I'm open to listen. I'm open to hear. I'm open to follow what others believe are very important to our community. I just don't think there's any one issue more important than economic development. And if I can elaborate just a little bit further, Raymond.
Go ahead.
One of the issues that we are, as a community, are very perplexed by right now, that I'm losing sleep over, and I know you and others are too. This whole issue of violence in our community being at a unprecedented level. And when I hear our leadership in the police department express the concern and the angst around it being really out of control, so much out of control that our police are worried and afraid and seeming like they don't know how to best address it, appealing to us as a community to help. And so I see these things going hand in hand, the violence that goes on and the economic condition of our community. And certainly there's a psychological element to this, the whole trauma of living in poverty and living in these conditions for so long. We've almost gotten to the point where this thing is in a tailspin and it's out of control. So how do we address it? Well, certainly we want to take ownership to the extent that we can around changing. What can we do to change the economic conditions? And what can we do to eliminate any barriers that keep people from feeling like there's hope for them to prosper in our community? I know there's opportunity, but some folk are disillusioned. And how do we change that? And so I'm excited about those kinds of opportunities, but challenged by them as well.
Right. So you talked about some very, very heavy matters that affect our community and which economic development can impact. If you had to point to two measures of success that you say if we can achieve these two things or this one thing from an economic development standpoint, we will have been successful. How would you measure the success?
Well, I have a slightly different perspective than say I would have if you'd asked me that same question just a few years ago. Because certainly as an urban planner, you asked me how do I measure the success, I would say, well, in economic terms, how many jobs were created, how many businesses, what kind of revenue have we addressed or attracted, and how has that changed our community and who's benefited from that. Those are kind of the standard ways that we would measure those things. But more and more, I see very clearly that one of the issues that needs to be dealt with in our community is Black leadership must be empowered and must be resourced adequately such that it can have the capacity necessary to take on these kinds of challenges. Because I believe that Black leadership, first of all, have the responsibility and to take ownership for these conditions, because this is our community. These are our children. These are the families that we're here to serve when we're providers. And so this is the marketplace for us to prosper in. And if there's something going on in that area, then we need to address it. But it's hard to address it when we don't have adequate capacity to do so. Right. And politically not viewed as being in leadership. We get asked our opinion by other folk who are empowered. What do we think? And then they go and figure out what to do and for us. So I think the first thing out of those two things you asked me to offer is we have to really be serious about Black empowerment. We is the collective. That's all of us, all races, all walks, have to be serious about it. And then those who are empowered as Black leaders must be serious about taking ownership of the conditions within our community, because it's only going to be up to us to change it. The second thing I think certainly is creating environments that represent quality of life such that we can feel comfortable and safe, and there's a wholesomeness and there's a vibrancy such that we can thrive and grow, and especially necessary for young people. Having grown up in the Russell neighborhood, I tell you that the Beecher Terrace that I grew up in wasn't, it turned into something else. It wasn't, as we've torn it down, thank God we had the ability to see that we need to transform that condition. So we've torn it down, but I grew up in a neighborhood that was vibrant, in terms of, even though we were poor, we were in poverty, and it was still safe for most of us. There was opportunity to get education. There was opportunity for recreation. There was opportunity to experience, a decent childhood. And so when I get concerned about those conditions that I even grew up in, even though we were racially segregated and we were in the poor part of our community, even, if you think about that, and today's conditions are not even what that was for young people growing up, so we have to address that, because there's always the generation behind us, the generations behind us that we must be preparing our communities for. And so because they need opportunity to grow and to prosper. And so I take on those things very seriously in my mind. So again, we got to lead and we got to create environments for prosperity to really be a real thing for people.
Which is a great segue into House Bill 321, which passed the Kentucky General Assembly during this past legislative session, which created the West End Opportunity Partnership. And I know you were involved in helping to do that, and you're also involved in helping to implement it. So tell us, what is it designed to do, and how will it impact the community, and what should the community know about it?
Well, the thing that excites me most about the West End Opportunity Partnership is it does represent the kind of empowerment that I advocate for. We will have a community board. It will be governed primarily by Black leadership, and it will, even right from the gate, it will have economic resources to work with. So the idea, and I've had a chance to listen to Senator Neal and Representative Stevenson as we've supported efforts to engage and educate our community on what this is, as well as what it's not, at least not yet, because what we have there now, Raymond, with the passage of that House bill and the Senate bill, is legislation that gives us an opportunity to do something that's never been done before. So this is unprecedented, waters that are uncharted, but it comes with the aspiration of creating significant economic impact, and to be governed by a body that's predominantly led by Black leaders. And so I look at how that governance body is structured with those institutional leaders, Simmons College of Kentucky, the Urban League, One West, the Federal Reserve, and the list goes on. I think there's a total of 21 members on that seat. 9 of those of the 9 seats on that board represent the 9 neighborhoods of West Louisville. So you have a chance to have grassroots engagement from neighborhood leaders of those areas. And I think that's what Black empowerment can look like, and it has resources. Now, the challenge to talk any further than that is based on the fact that it's going to be governed by this entity that has not been seated yet. Right. So there's no rules in place for what it will do or how it will do and what its goals and what its strategies will be. But there is a vision that it can address housing and economic development within those 9 neighborhoods of West Louisville, and which just happened to be the most economically challenged part of our entire metropolitan area. You know, we did a study a while back working with Louisville Magazine, and you probably remember that when they published the Stop Ignoring the West End and the Tale of Two Cities. And we saw that those 22 census tracts of West Louisville had a median income that was about a third of the 22 census tracts on the east side of the county. And, you know, that's a huge economic disparity. And I tell you, as a professional that worked in public housing for a number of years, I worked in poverty around Black issues for all of my career practically. And I always viewed poverty as being isolated to low-income housing. Well, the truth of the matter is the entirety of West Louisville is plagued by poverty. The data says that. And so here's an opportunity to do something uncharted, unprecedented, led by Blacks, infused by local state government with some startup money. It's a new venture. And we just want to make sure that the right mindset of making sure that it can be successful, because when it is successful, it can't help but to improve economic conditions in our community, and that's the thing that motivates me.
You know, as I have read through the bill, I think there is a tremendous opportunity there for business development, a tremendous opportunity for home ownership. There's tremendous opportunity for rehabilitation of homes in the neighborhoods of the community. You know, when the bill was being put together, one of the things that I constantly heard was in terms of the state bringing money to the table, the city of Louisville bringing money to the table. I kept hearing this $10 million commitment, or a reference to a $10 million commitment from the city of Louisville. And yet, when I see the mayor's budget that he put out there, he only put $3 million in it. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I've been told that, as you just stated, that there was a $10 million commitment coming from the city to be matched against a $20 million commitment coming from the state, and that therefore a $30 million seed capital fund for that governance body to administer. And so if I must have missed that line in the budget when I went through it, Raymond, where it was cut. I know that we still in the budget negotiations between the executive branch and legislative branch and city government. But my hope is that, again, I'm excited by it. If the Metro Council and the mayor wanted my opinion, or I think other leaders in the community that are concerned about economic development, we would say, yes, please fund that in its entirety. In fact, Raymond, I've looked at the mayor's budget, and I look at them, on an annual basis as they're published. And I can tell you this, in Mr. Fisher's 3 terms, almost 11 years, I've never seen a budget as healthy as this one. And that's even before the final stimulus money gets, involved. So my point in saying that is, there certainly should not be an excuse that we don't have the money to put there. We got it. So if we got it, we've got to make sure that this is a high enough priority that it gets funded.
No. What I was speaking to was was the budget that the mayor proposed 3 weeks ago, or whenever he did his budget proposal for the opportunity partnership. There was only $3 million in there. To which my immediate reaction is that, once again, rather than funding the full commitment, we haven't. So maybe the Metro Council and its committees, as it's worked through to get into budget approval, will add those funds back in to do it, because I think it's absolutely essential to doing that. And also, when you talk about the budget being healthy in terms of doing more things for the community because of the issues, I think that there has to be, or is a realization, or has to be a realization, that the the events of the last year should point us toward need to do more, to more actively engage, and to come into the community and to be able to do some things.
Can I elaborate on that point that
Yes.
you just made, please?
Yes.
Just briefly. The events of the last year, the past 15, 16 months, we've seen, if you add up the 3 stimulus bills, that 2 passed by President Trump, 1 by President Biden, total about $5 trillion. In my lifetime, and I don't think in the history of America have we seen that level of federal stimulus. And that's the reason why the mayor's budget was as healthy as it was, is because it's benefited from the previous 2 stimulus bills. And then we've got a third one. So I just need to say this from a Black leadership standpoint, because we need to, as Black leaders, understand that if there was ever a need for us to be economically empowered, now is the time for it to happen, because the capital is in the system, and it's in the system at a unprecedented, we may not ever see this level of infusion again. And so if we can't do it now, then what we will be fighting for, and I'll stop with that.
Okay. Well, in the last few, I guess we got a few minutes left. I want to talk about, when we started out, you're now chair of the Louisville Branch Economic Development Committee, and you're a committee of 1 now, and you need members. And so the question is, are you open to individuals from the community joining your committee?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I welcome members. I need members. I depend on members to this committee. And I'll just say, for the current membership of our local chapter, please email me. I'll put my email address out there, kfields502@gmail.com. Please email me your interest. And that likewise goes out to anyone who is interested in becoming a member of our chapter. And the good news is that it is affordable to become a dues-paying member of Louisville chapter NAACP. So, and if you're not doing it now, I would say that you need to be, and we'll give you inroads to start by joining the Economic Development Committee. So, absolutely, I welcome members, need members, and we're going to do some things that I'm about leveraging and synergizing and collaborating a community. So the leverage piece is I head up Louisville Central Community Center, and we're already addressing economic development in our neighborhood of Russell, but it stretches beyond Russell as well. But we're engaged in that. We're also, thanks to Mayor Fisher, recently appointed to Waterfront Development Corporation. And so we're going to be leveraging that role. Waterfront Park West is being designed. It will be coming in the future years. And so these are economic development opportunities as well. Likewise, we'll be working with Louisville Rotary, heading up the Diversity and Inclusion Committee of that. And again, we'll be leveraging our downtown business leaders around these same concerns that we have in the Black community. So I welcome help, need more talent, more expertise, and more commitment to advance the work of the Economic Development Chapter of our NAACP.
Well, I'd like to thank our guest today, Mr. Kevin Fields, who is the Executive Director of Louisville Central Community Center and also Chair of the Louisville Branch NAACP Economic Development Committee. And as he has said, our work gets done through members. And so we invite each and every one of you to become an active dues-paying member of the organization. Having members who pay dues is how we finance our organization, how we get our work done, and how things take place. So if you're interested in joining the NAACP, you can actually go to our website, which is lounaacp.org, and you can click on there, and there's a link for membership that you can join through that mechanism. or you can in fact come visit our office at 1245 Catalpa Court, and someone will be there to actually enroll you and take your membership. Or you can look at our Facebook listing, which is at Louisville NAACP. So we're an organization that's busy about taking care of our community. And today we were talking about taking care of business through economic development. And so we'd like to thank Mr. Kevin Fields for being with us today. But, if we're really interested in making real change and impacting our community, the NAACP needs you, because it's only through such action, your action, that we're able to lift every voice. And when we lift every voice, our community benefits. Thank you.